The North American P-51 Mustang stands as one of the most iconic fighter aircraft in aviation history. During World War II, it achieved legendary status as the long-range escort fighter that protected Allied bomber formations deep into German territory, helping to establish Allied air superiority over Europe. With its sleek lines, powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, and exceptional performance characteristics, the Mustang represented the pinnacle of piston-engine fighter design. When World War II ended in August 1945, the United States Army Air Forces possessed thousands of P-51 Mustangs in service around the world. Yet within just a few years, this dominant fighter would nearly disappear from American military service, replaced by jet-powered aircraft that made even the advanced Mustang seem obsolete. The story of what happened to the P-51 Mustang after World War II is one of rapid technological change, unexpected second chances in new conflicts, and an enduring legacy that continues to this day. At the end of World War II, the United States had produced approximately 15,000 P-51 Mustangs in various models. These aircraft were deployed across multiple theaters of operation, from England to Italy, from the Pacific Islands to China. The Mustang had proven itself not only as an escort fighter, but also in ground attack roles, air superiority missions, and reconnaissance variants. However, the same war that had driven the Mustang's development had also accelerated aviation technology at an unprecedented rate. By 1945, both Germany and Britain had already deployed operational jet fighters. The German Messerschmitt 262 and the British Gloucester Meteor demonstrated that jet propulsion represented the future of military aviation. The United States had also developed jet fighters during the war, including the Bell P-59 Aerocomet and the Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, which entered service just as the war ended. The rapid demobilization that followed victory created an immediate surplus of military equipment, including thousands of P-51 Mustangs. The Army Air Forces, which would become the independent United States Air Force in 1947, faced the challenge of maintaining a peacetime force with limited budgets while simultaneously transitioning to jet-powered aircraft. The decision was made to drastically reduce the inventory of piston-engine fighters. Thousands of P-51s were placed in storage at facilities across the United States, while others were simply scrapped. The aluminum from these aircraft was recycled, and airframes that had cost tens of thousands of dollars to produce were sold for scrap metal prices. Some Mustangs were sold as surplus to civilian buyers for as little as $1,500, a fraction of their original cost. Many of these civilian-owned Mustangs were modified for air racing, a popular sport in the immediate post-war years. Despite this rapid drawdown, the P-51 Mustang did not immediately disappear from military service. The newly formed Air National Guard units across the United States received P-51s as their primary fighter aircraft. These part-time military organizations, composed of citizen airmen, operated Mustangs throughout the late 1940s. The aircraft provided these units with capable, if aging, equipment, while the active-duty Air Force transitioned to jets. The Mustang's relatively simple maintenance requirements and lower operating costs compared to jet fighters made it suitable for National Guard operations. Additionally, several foreign air forces received P-51 Mustangs through military assistance programs. Nations that had fought alongside the United States during World War II, including Australia, Canada, and several European countries, acquired Mustangs to rebuild their air forces in the post-war period. The most significant extension of the P-51's military career came with the outbreak of the Korean War in June 1950. When North Korean forces invaded South Korea, the United States found itself engaged in a major conflict just 5 years after the end of World War II. The Air Force had, by this time, largely transitioned to jet fighters, with aircraft like the F-80 Shooting Star and F-84 Thunderjet forming the backbone of tactical fighter squadrons. However, the Korean War revealed that jet fighters of that era had limitations, particularly in the close air support role. Early jets consumed fuel rapidly, limiting their time over target areas. They also required longer, paved runways that were not always available in the austere operating conditions of Korea. The P-51 Mustang was recalled to active service to address these limitations. Air National Guard units flying Mustangs were federalized and deployed to Korea. The aircraft proved well suited to the ground attack missions that dominated the air war over Korea. Mustangs could operate from shorter, rougher airfields closer to the front lines. They could loiter over target areas longer than contemporary jets, providing more sustained support to ground forces. The aircraft could carry a substantial ordnance load, including bombs, rockets, and napalm canisters. Perhaps most importantly, large numbers of Mustangs remained available in storage, providing a ready reserve of airframes that could be quickly returned to service. During the Korean War, P-51 Mustangs flew thousands of ground attack sorties. They struck North Korean and Chinese positions, attacked supply lines, destroyed bridges and rail facilities, and provided close air support to United Nations ground forces. The Mustang's liquid-cooled engine made it vulnerable to ground fire, as a single hit to the cooling system could cause engine failure. Pilots learned to minimize their exposure by using dive bombing and rocket attacks rather than the sustained low-level strafing runs that had been common in World War II. Despite these vulnerabilities, the Mustang performed effectively throughout the conflict. However, its role was clearly that of a ground attack aircraft rather than a fighter. When Mustangs encountered North Korean or Chinese fighters, which were generally obsolete types themselves, air combat could still occur, but the primary mission remained ground attack. As the Korean War progressed, the P-51 was gradually phased out of frontline service, even in the ground attack role. Improved jet aircraft, particularly the F-84 Thunderjet, took over most tactical missions. By the time the armistice was signed in July 1953, the Mustang's combat career with the United States Air Force was essentially over. The aircraft had provided valuable service during a critical period, demonstrating that even older technology could remain relevant when properly employed. After Korea, remaining P-51s in Air Force service were retired to storage or disposed of through various means. The story of the P-51 after American military service involves several distinct paths. A significant number of Mustangs were transferred to foreign air forces through military assistance programs during the 1950s. Countries in Latin America, Asia, and elsewhere received P-51s as the United States upgraded these nations' air forces. The Dominican Republic, for example, operated Mustangs until the 1980s, making it one of the last air forces to retire the type from military service. Israel acquired P-51s and used them during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, where they played a role in achieving air superiority. Sweden purchased Mustangs and operated them as the J-26 until the late 1950s. These foreign operators extended the Mustang's military life cycle by decades beyond its use with the United States military. In the civil sector, the P-51 Mustang found new life in several areas. Air racing became one of the most visible uses of surplus Mustangs. The National Air Races, which resumed after World War II, featured unlimited class racing where modified Mustangs competed for speed records. Wealthy aviation enthusiasts purchased surplus Mustangs and modified them extensively, removing military equipment, reducing weight, and tuning engines for maximum performance. These racing Mustangs reached speeds exceeding 400 miles per hour, far faster than they had flown in military service. The Reno Air Races, which began in 1964, continue to feature P-51 Mustangs and their derivatives in unlimited class competition to this day. Beyond racing, Mustangs became prized warbird aircraft for collectors and aviation museums. As awareness of the Mustang's historical significance grew, efforts to preserve examples of the aircraft increased. Museums around the world acquired P-51s for their collections, restoring them to various configurations representing different periods of their service history. Private collectors, particularly in the United States, purchased and restored Mustangs to flying condition. These privately owned warbirds appear at air shows, allowing new generations to witness the sight and sound of this historic aircraft in flight. The restoration and maintenance of these aircraft requires specialized knowledge and skills, as many original parts are no longer available and must be fabricated. Despite these challenges, a significant number of P-51 Mustangs remain airworthy today, more than 80 years after the type first flew. The P-51 Mustang also found an unexpected role in civilian aviation, beyond air racing and museum displays. Some Mustangs were converted for use in air racing's civilian transport category, modified to carry passengers or cargo. Others were used in aerial survey work, photography, and even experimental programs. The aircraft's speed, range, and reliability made it useful for various civilian applications, though the high operating costs associated with the powerful Merlin engine limited widespread civilian use. The military training role also continued for some Mustangs, with aircraft serving as advanced trainers or adversary aircraft in military exercises, though this use was limited. The technical legacy of the P-51 Mustang extends beyond the airframes themselves. The aircraft represented the culmination of piston-engine fighter design, incorporating lessons learned throughout World War II. Its laminar flow wing design, which reduced drag and improved high-speed performance, influenced subsequent aircraft designs. The successful integration of the British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine with an American airframe demonstrated the value of international cooperation in military aviation. The Mustang's long range, achieved through efficient aerodynamics and substantial internal fuel capacity, supplemented by external drop tanks, established requirements that influenced post-war fighter design, even as propulsion systems transitioned to jets. The aircraft proved that air superiority fighters needed sufficient range to escort bombers deep into enemy territory, a lesson that shaped fighter development throughout the Cold War. The cultural impact of the P-51 Mustang has proven as enduring as its technical legacy. The aircraft has appeared in numerous films, television shows, and books about World War II and aviation history. Its distinctive appearance, with the streamlined fuselage, bubble canopy, and scoop-shaped radiator intake under the fuselage, makes it instantly recognizable to aviation enthusiasts and casual observers alike. The Mustang represents a specific era in aviation history, the final period when piston-engine fighters dominated air combat, before the jet age fundamentally transformed military aviation. This historical position gives the aircraft special significance as a symbol of both technological achievement and the transition between eras. The preservation community surrounding the P-51 Mustang remains active and dedicated. Organizations like the Commemorative Air Force maintain flying examples of the aircraft, using them for educational purposes and historical demonstrations. These organizations train pilots in the unique handling characteristics of the Mustang, ensuring that knowledge of how to fly and maintain these aircraft is passed to new generations. The market for P-51 Mustangs among collectors has made surviving examples extremely valuable, with restored airworthy Mustangs selling for several $1 million. This high value ensures that owners have financial incentive to maintain the aircraft properly, though it also places ownership beyond the reach of all but the wealthiest collectors. The evolution of the surviving P-51 population reflects broader changes in how society values and preserves historic aircraft. In the immediate post-war years, with thousands of Mustangs in existence, individual aircraft had little perceived historical value. They were simply surplus military equipment, disposed of without particular concern for preservation. As the population of surviving aircraft dwindled through scrapping, crashes, and attrition, the remaining examples became increasingly precious. This shift in perspective led to greater efforts to locate, recover, and restore Mustangs from various states of disrepair. Aircraft that had been abandoned, used as static displays, or even buried have been recovered and painstakingly restored to flying condition. Today, the P-51 Mustang occupies a unique position in aviation history and popular culture. It represents both a specific moment, the air war over Europe in World War II, and a broader story about technological change and adaptation. The aircraft that was cutting edge in 1944 became obsolete by 1950, yet found renewed purpose in a different conflict just 5 years later. After leaving military service, the Mustang discovered new roles in civilian hands, from air racing to historical preservation. The approximately 200 P-51 Mustangs that remain in existence, with perhaps half of those in airworthy condition, serve as flying museums, tangible connections to the past that allow people to experience a piece of history directly, rather than simply reading about it. The sound of a Merlin engine at full power, the sight of a Mustang in flight, these sensory experiences provide understanding that photographs and written accounts cannot fully convey. The P-51 Mustang's story after World War II is ultimately one of transformation and persistence. An aircraft designed for a specific purpose in a specific conflict proved adaptable enough to serve in different roles and different contexts. Its enduring appeal ensures that the Mustang will continue to fly for years to come, a living reminder of the men who flew it in combat and the era when piston-engine fighters ruled the skies.